I think the number one reason I've had this success is because I don't create content I think people are going to like. I create content that feels very authentic to who I am. And in my world, it's if you want to come to me, you can. I'm not trying to reach people.
We have Sabrina here, who has absolutely crushed it building a huge audience on Instagram and TikTok. She has actually been able to turn that into a huge opportunity by creating multiple streams of income from businesses kind of built off the social media following, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail afterwards. And those range from coaching to podcasting to apparel e-commerce stores. So yeah, really excited to dive in and learn how you built all of this and how you manage it, because it sounds like a lot. But welcome to the podcast. And thank you so much for joining, Sabrina.
Thanks, Jack. It's great to be here.
Well, really appreciate you taking the time. And to start out with, maybe let's even just go over a bit of backstory where you originally got started, because you have, hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. That doesn't just happen overnight, we know. So maybe let's start on where that kind of started, and then we can then go into how you turn that into a range of different businesses.
Absolutely. So my background, I went to acting school when I was 18. So I always knew that I wanted to be in front of people. I just didn't know to what capacity. And I was a model when I was a kid. So it was a lot of entertainment, but just not really feeling like that was my path. So I've lived in New York for 12 years prior to now being in California. And I worked in fashion for about 6 years. And in that process, my mom got sick in 2017. And that's when I started my clothing company the day after her successful surgery. And I wanted to start software to create something different, to create a fabric that was different, to create a story that was different, and actually bring back American made manufacturing. And during COVID, we exploded. Things were really incredible. And then post COVID, it was tough to run a business solo. And throughout that entire process, I started doing podcasts just as part of being a business owner, and people constantly questioning and asking me to be on and talk about starting a business from nothing. And as I was on these podcasts, I kind of had a lot of people constantly saying like, hey man, would you be able to coach me? Like, I really like the way that you operate. So I started taking coaching, like doing clients on the side, nothing crazy, just like here, there, and everywhere. And then, let's see, it was last year, exactly a year ago, like a year and a week. My friend finally was at my house and she's like, I'm telling you, just start a fucking TikTok. People will care what you have to say. And my own limiting beliefs, I was like, no one's going to care about what I have to say. And people are going to find me annoying and I'm too much. And I had my own shit. And I was like, all right, I'll try. And I posted on TikTok, and like literally just that's the start of the rest of the journey.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so in terms of your timeline, it was actually kind of the e-commerce store first and then your social media following.
Absolutely. Yeah. The e-commerce software has like maybe 12 or 13,000 followers. Like it wasn't anything major. I personally had like 20,000 followers myself. So I didn't have any kind of presence or any name, but I was known in the fashion industry as at least like the inside world of like buyers and things like that. People knew our company and I was in a lot of press and things like that, but it didn't translate into social media, nor did it translate into making sales necessarily.
Okay, and then after that, the podcast started, because the podcast got like 300,000 followers or something on Instagram, and then I think 500,000 on TikTok. Is that right?
The TikTok, I think it's at 610 now. So the TikTok started first a year ago. So that was me just being like, all right, I'll post a video. And I got really serious with it. Like I posted 5 videos a day. I was going live.
Wow.
Yeah, like I fucking went hard, but I was like, listen, I might as well, right? And so as videos started to go viral, then I was like, okay. And the podcast started February of this year. So it was one of those, like, I just said, shit, why not? Right. People keep saying you should have a podcast. I bought a mic on Amazon. I remember taking a photo in my kitchen of me with this like very phallic pink, massive mic. Yeah, exactly. And then that was it. I just was like, fuck it. I'll start the podcast. And so that started February. And then I started coaching, like taking clients off social media in March of this year. So it hasn't been a while, but yeah, the Instagram, I started it in February and it's now, 311,000 followers.
So impressive. That's actually really fast growth. And I think the other thing is a lot of people, they say, oh, it's so much harder now. It's not as easy as it used to be, blah, blah, blah. But this is kind of like an example of someone who's recently kind of grown a huge following. What would you say was the success to that? Because, there's a lot of people out there saying it's different and you can't do it anymore, sort of thing.
I think the number one reason I've had this success is because I don't create content I think people are going to like. I create content that feels very authentic to who I am. And in my world, it's If you want to come to me, you can. I'm not trying to reach people. And I think by just staying very authentic, like, yes, I speak a lot, I curse a lot, I talk fast, I am super blunt, I'm super to the point, but I knew that that was not what was out there. So I did my homework, I did my research. I was a single person dating. I knew the content I was seeing that wasn't working for me. And so in my mind it was, okay, what are things that have helped me? And I shared personal stories. I just really focused on staying as authentic to who I am as I possibly could. And that's why when people then work with me or talk to me directly, they're always like, wow, you're the same person. It's like, yeah, I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just putting my cards on the table and just being like, all right, yeah, I like them or you don't.
No, that's awesome. And then when it comes to the businesses, kind of how did you get started with those? How did you make your first, let's say, $1,000 with the apparel store, the podcast, the coaching? Like, what were the starting points when you're like, okay, this is actually something that could turn into a business?
Software started because a company I had worked for embezzled the money and closed the company. Her investor said, keep the company alive. So I created software. He said, I don't want to do it. Never mind. And I was like, okay, I guess not. Then my now ex business partner, but the person I started with was like, why don't we do it? He's like, you have the buyers, you work in fashion. I know how to do manufacturing. And I was like, all right, why not? So the day after my mom's surgery, I called him and I was like, fuck it. What do we have to lose? So for software, we started with wholesale. So I already had, because I had been working in wholesale, I was able to contact all my buyers and say, "Hey, here's this new product, here's this amazing thing." And the product spoke for itself. Like, but they touched it and they were instantly like, "We're buying this. This is incredible." So that's how the brand, and then of course, like, because we had retailers, then we got people onto our website, then I started the social media, then we started working with influencers. It started to just mushroom and then word of mouth, press. That was the business taking off on its own. For my personal stuff, it was kind of the same thing. I have a stand store and I was like, all right, I'll offer coaching, I'll offer things. And I mean, I think I booked like 7 people in the first, or no, I started with 3 people in a week. And I remember telling my mom, okay, if I could book 3 people in 1 month, imagine if I do 6 people next month and I can grow. The next month I booked out. And I think since then I've been booked solid pretty much since March. Like, there's a week where I'll have 1 or 2 openings or a person that canceled or something, but for the most part, I put my offerings out there that I knew people were asking for, and I just let the chips fall where they may.
Got it. Interesting. And then when was the tipping point on when you were like, okay, I have a big enough audience to now put an offer out there? When did you feel like that was the right time to send that offer out?
Truthfully, it wasn't until people asked me for it. Because I had my own limiting beliefs. In my world, was like, "I can't do this. Nobody's gonna pay me. Why would anybody care?" That was me just feeling like I didn't have anything to offer the world, and I was scared that I was gonna be rejected. I was scared that I was gonna be a failure and a loser. Like, that was all my limiting core beliefs from childhood traumas and all the bullshit that's been in therapy for fucking 10 years. But now, once I started that and I was like, okay, people kept asking, hey, I really want to book with you. Like, how do I do this? That's when I said, all right, if one person asked, then that must mean there's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. And I figured, okay, a stand store is $30 a month. I was like, I have nothing to lose. I might as well just put the link in my bio. At this point, I did not have an Instagram following. I only had a TikTok following. And then what happened was, yeah, the TikTok following was maybe at like 250,000 followers. And I was like, okay, I think this is enough people. But then I started to realize, wait a minute, TikTok is very volatile and it's not consistent. And it's not like every time you post a video, all your friends are going to see it. So I started to realize I need to diversify my portfolio. That's why I started going really hard. I was like, I have all this content. I might as well put it on different platforms and get different audiences. So I started the YouTube. That's been harder to grow just because I don't understand that world, nor do I really care to right now. But the Instagram and the TikTok, I was like, I'm just going to focus on putting really great content out. And I was able to grow my personal to 100,000 in like 2 months and the other one to about 311 in like 6 months.
Wow, that's insane. And that's mostly just from posting a lot and having good content.
Reels. Reels have
Mm,
been there is no way to go about it. Static posts are fun and all unless you do like quotes that are really captivating that people are going to constantly repost, but Reels is how
mhm.
I saw growth like that.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I think they're all pushing towards video content. Um, So yeah, you just give the platforms what they want.
I was gonna say, I mean, you have to think about same with like TikTok. So TikTok, I watch and I monitor their updates because I want to make sure that think about it. So now they're pushing adding like an add yours feature. So they sent an alert saying for the next 30 days, if you add yours to the videos, we're going to ensure that more people see it. So already knowing, okay, they're telling me what to do. They're saying if you want more content seen, play by my rules. Fuck yeah, I'll play by your rules. So even prior to that, it was make a series, added that to everything. I've sold 450 series in like s- like a month and a half. So I've just learned that when TikTok or Instagram create something, now they're pushing the shop features. Okay, great. Start creating things with product. When the app tells you how to monetize or what they're pushing, you got to listen and play by their rules because they're going to push, like you said, keeping people on the platform and creating more videos.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway for everybody listening. Like, check out the updates on all the platforms. I don't think
Oh,
that many
yeah.
people do that actually, or even just follow the platforms on that social media. Because I'm pretty sure Instagram publishes a lot of the stuff they're focusing on if you follow them on Instagram.
If you follow, you'll find it. Like, I realize that like, they're gonna reward you. You know, it's like it is a reward system, and I've just also learned, like, it's about as well staying very consistent and finding your niche. Do not try to do everything. So, like, when I started, I was a dating coach. Now, what I've realized is, okay, what do I know really well? Anxiety. I I was an anxious dater, anxious attachment, like, she and I are BFF. So for me, it was okay, I can speak really confidently on this. I get people every day. Can you make content on this? No, I'm sorry. I'm not a divorce counselor. No, I'm not a marriage specialist. Like I don't make content. So people say, oh, can you do this? What do I do when I'm a year and a half in? It's like, we're not talking about relationships here. Almost 90% of my audience doesn't have a relationship, is just dating. It's like I had to stay very clear about who my people were and continue to create content that was actually benefiting them.
Yeah, and I think all these platforms rely on the share. Like, essentially, the share is the golden metric. And it's like if you're creating stuff that your ideal customers, 90% of them or followers want to see and share, then yeah, you're bound to grow.
Yeah.
Um,
But you could do that 2
yeah.
ways. So it's like you could do it in the way that to me is unethical, which is the clickbait way of creating
Hmm.
content, especially in there's 2 worlds I see this the most, the dating stuff, how to get a
Yeah.
man, text to send to make him want you, things like that that you're just like, "Oh, can someone gag me with a fucking spoon?" Then there's also all those creators I see that are like, "Do you wanna make money? Look, I made $1,000,000 in
Yeah.
my first year doing this. Get
With a
my
Lamborghini.
guide." And it's like, you know what? That's the clickbaity way that you can grow, and if you can sleep with yourself at night knowing that you're hitting on people's
Mm,
delusions, you know what?
yeah.
You have to sleep with you. I don't.
It's short-sighted though. Yeah.
Yeah,
It only
it's
lasts so
not
long.
sustainable.
No. No, that's awesome. And then just going back to the coaching side, I feel like that's an like for the listeners who are in content creation, that sort of stuff. I feel like that's an easier stepping stone than obviously starting a full, like, e-commerce business or,
Yeah.
apparel business. Um, and so you just manage that through an app. And then what's your kind of like month to month on managing that? Do you have to do like a lot of prep, or is it just like jumping on a call? Like, how do you structure that? And like, what do you offer in your coaching sort of things?
I wouldn't jump and start a clothing line if you've never worked in fashion. Let me tell you, I know there's a lot of people out there, and especially influencers. I want my own clothing line. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know how to make stuff. Please stop. So it's not that easy. Like, oh, I could go buy blanks, but if you want to create something that's actually your own, then go fucking do that. So that would be my first thing. But when it comes to the coaching thing, I think at first when I started it, I was like, okay, people keep asking me, so let me just do it. And I didn't really know how I was helping people. And so now that's what I was talking to with Masha today about was like, okay, people keep asking, are you going to do packages? I want to work with you more. But realistically, when I really kind of think about what fuels me, what makes me feel I love this career and I love what I do, I don't love coaching people for months on end. I want to work with people very specifically for situations. I want to bestow my wisdom and move the fuck on to other people because I can help people at masses. I don't like to work with people as much individually, for 6 to 8 months. I'm like, eh. So what I had to realize was great. Instead of me trying to make this whole package and do something that, yeah, other people do, but doesn't mean I need to do. Instead, I was like, okay, what fuels me is doing 1 or 2 appointments with people, giving them help, giving them awarenesses. Okay, now go to therapy. Like now go speak to a professional to like really work on this. If you really want to work with me, of course, I don't care. I'll work with people. But I'm not trying to create this entire coaching. I want to grow my podcast. That's at 500,000 downloads a month. I want to get it to 1 million to 2 million. I want to keep that fucking baby growing. So eventually coaching is going to be the first thing to go when I don't have the time anymore. But for now, what I've established is I use Stand Store. I everything is done through that. So I connect my Zoom, I connect all the emails, and I have everything kind of thing. So if you come to my Stand Store, you'll go down, book an appointment. It gives you my calendar. It's all already done for the next month. And that way I know wherever you are in the world, these are the times every single week that I'm comfortable taking new clients. I have my repeats that have specific time, but I have my clothing line. I've got my coaching business. I've got the entire social media that I also manage. Then also on yeah, then on top of that, I'm also now full-time, I'm a part of a leadership team for a new dating app that's coming out next year that's like this whole new concept that no one's ever seen. So I've got a lot of things going on in a day. The way that I manage most of this is I try to automate the process as much as I can. So like if somebody books an appointment with me, it'll ask you, what do you want to work on? Then it books it right in my calendar. Right before usually like when I get an appointment, I'm like, okay, cool. They want to work on this. I already know. But then usually right before about 10 minutes before my appointment, I'll read up on it. And then when I start my appointments, I always give my spiel of like, here's what you can expect. Here's how I can help you. Here are my goals for you. What are your goals for this session? And what are you planning to get out of this? Because I want to manage expectations and not have people think it's a quick fix. So the coaching has actually been something I set it and forget it type thing. And then the way that yeah, honestly, the way that I handle running so many things, I answer things like that. I do not put things off. I do not procrastinate. I wake up at 6 a.m. If I've got 30 emails, I'm answering those and then I'm getting started with my day because if I know it's done, I know it's done. I don't have to think like after our calls, I'm done for the week. I've caught up on everything. I've stayed up until 10 every night doing what I need to do so that on my weekends, I've earned this fucking rest.
Yeah, you need to have those two modes, rest and work mode.
A
It's
hundred
hard to
percent
continually grind 7 days a week, every week.
burnout. You'll just
Um,
hit burnout. It's not worth it. And don't try to
yeah.
pretend you're superhuman. None of us are,
Love that.
you know?
So blunt.
Yeah, it's just what it is. I'm like, "You're not. None of us can fucking handle it, so let's not try to pretend we are." Yes, does Beyoncé have the same amount of time in a day as we do? But she also has an entire staff to handle her life, so let's not pretend
Yeah, yeah,
like we have that.
yeah. Yeah. And I think it also comes down to like the number of decisions you make a day. You can only make so many good
Mhm.
decisions a day. And once you start going past that number, you start hitting burnout, making bad decisions, being
And
miserable.
And I think 100%. I think when you really know yourself, I used to not.
Yeah.
I used to go to the point of like literal like fatigue, exhaustion because I used to do all the fulfillment for software. So my apartment in
Oof.
Brooklyn was my fulfillment center as well. So I had
Wow.
107 boxes in my one space. It's fucking insane. So I was doing everything myself. I was taking orders. I was hand tie dyeing over COVID. I was packing them, drying them in my house, packing them, walking them
Mm,
to USPS in Brooklyn. Like
wow.
I ate
That is
shit.
dedication.
It was, I mean,
That is dedication.
that was that, like, you either do it or nobody else is going to because we didn't have the money. So,
Hmm.
I've learned, yes, while it's very important to hustle and work your ass off, it's equally as important to take those rest days and remind yourself that you're no good to anybody if you're burned out. And I actually that's why I choose my
Yeah.
outfits the night before, because I know that I can only make so many decisions in a day, so I at least wanna start with making less.
Yeah. No, it's true. I think that's the famous one is Steve Jobs wearing the
Yeah.
same thing all day, every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was big on that decision making battery.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's like I love routines. I don't have to make
Yeah.
decisions all the time. I know I wake up, I have my schedule because then it helps you when you're making decisions in your business to feel fresh and really connected
Mm,
with your business and not be like like I've had sometimes on a Friday night where Masha and I are talking about the app and we're making a decision and I'll look at her and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't even remember the question you asked." Like that's how at capacity my brain is and I'm like, I will have
yeah.
to say like, "We have to cue this. We'll talk about this tomorrow." I'm like, "I'm done."
Mm, yeah. Okay, so this is a good segue actually. So, how do you manage all this? Have you built teams around this? Have you done automations with like Zapier? Like, how are you currently sort of organizing all of this? Have you built up teams and systems, or are you still kind of using automation for a lot of it?
So I am guilty of the no, I can do it all. No, 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 I don't need to hire anybody. I can do everything because I'm a control freak. No, I have learned that when I had software and I would hire people, no one is going to do most of your jobs or any of your jobs as well as you're ever going to do it. And like no one's ever going to care about your business in the way that you do, and that's a harsh reality we all need to accept unless that person has equity and even then they probably won't give a shit as much. So knowing that when it comes to the coaching and the Insta and all that stuff, I have kind of just I think it's just a routine with me. Like I know, okay, twice a week I create about 10 to 15 videos. That'll get me through the week. And then I'm like, I already have that. I schedule it in my calendar of like content creation, podcasts. I have an entire calendar through April coordinated of every guest, when I have to edit. Like I know that being able to organize my own stuff in my calendar is going to be super helpful. I create my own schedule, which is great. So I can wake up at 5 and if I want to work until 2, done. And then I kind of like when I'm on the couch, I will be focused on, making sure I have content for the next day and prepping and planning. I don't let myself get into a freak out. I automate pretty much just the email funnels, like everything's through the Stan Store. At this point, I don't answer DMs via Instagram. I get like 100 to 200 a day and I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth to write back to every person. I need advice. It's like you can go to the link, you can purchase it. Like there's just certain times where you have to there's an element of reality that like you're not going to be able to do it all. And there are going to be have to be some things that you're like, all right, I can't afford to hire someone to focus on social media full time right now while the business is growing. So I have to choose my battles.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, nobody's ever going to do as good a job as you, but
Right.
you've just got to find the stuff that is less important to delegate, I suppose. But
Yeah, or you can have your
you know,
virtual assistant. It's just those little things of like I have my stupid ass fucking Alexa. I have to remind her to tell me, I'm like, hey, remind me to book my doctor's appointment. Like she's my assistant. So the minute I hear it, I'm like, let me just do it. That's been helpful to
mm,
me. Let me just get it done. When I get it, it's
hmm
done. Then I don't have to worry about it. That way, I because I'm very anxious. So I can quell my anxiety and have the perception of that I'm in control of my life, even though we all
hmm
know I'm not.
nobody is.
Nobody is. None of us are God. We can't figure out what's going to happen next.
Okay, so you're an inbox zero kind of person.
Oh, I have one text right now and just seeing that one on my screen, I'm like, "What is it?"
I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I know we've got over a lot in this last kind of like 20 minutes. Just to quickly round out,
Yeah.
what's kind of like your main focus for the rest of this year? Like Q4 is here. What's your main focus? Where do you feel like there's the most opportunity for even listeners out there, content creators, people running businesses? What do you feel like you should be focusing on for this last few months of the year? Where are the opportunities lying in your eyes?
Crazy that we're at Q4. I forgot that I'm like, "Yeah, you're right, in 2 days." Holy shit. I would say right now, for me personally, the podcast is my number one priority because it's been growing so fast and I just started getting ads. I'm like, "Okay, that's my priority is to grow that baby to the moon and back." I want Do the Work to be the number one podcast you go to when you're of dang your anxiety. So what that means for me is that the social media is an accoutrement. And that meant I had to play with new content. I had to start playing with doing quick little videos with text on it that say, I have a podcast. I started to experiment and see, okay, this video did well. Oh, wait, this video did well. Oh, wait, doing this did well. Going live more does well. I would say for anyone right now, use this opportunity because realistically, Q4, if you're trying to get work with brands and things like that, depending on your interest, brands are not looking at people right now. They're looking for people for next year. So almost every brand I've spoken to is like, yeah, we're tapped out for Q4. Like we're done with 2023. We're looking at budget. Exactly. Budget for 2024. If they have any open to buy, it's a nice to have. So I would say focus on creating what I was always do and what my managers always told me is you find the brands that you like and you create content that you think they're going to want. So, for instance, my partner and I are moving together. So, we've started to create content of us with furniture, of us with different brands, of us doing things. That way, when I hit up brands saying, "Hey, got my baby right here and already work with them." But like because of that, because I created a video, I created something for her, sent it. She was like, "We love this. Can you do this for us?" If you want to create content, or even if you just want to get like product from the brands, you have to create content that brands will say, hey, I can fit into this. So obviously I have a million dating apps reaching out to me because my content's about dating. So I'm focused on right now for the end of the year, creating, having fun, playing. But I think for anybody, what you should focus on right now is creating something that feels exciting to you. Creating content like I don't create certain content because I'm like, that's bullshit. I don't need to do these stupid little videos. They don't align with me, but this does. Find shit that fuels you, that makes you feel passionate. But also know this if you want to grow on social media, yeah, the money's nice. If you get, I'm still, even at my level, I'm not making like fucking millions a year. Like, let's manage expectations. It doesn't work that way. But one thing that people need to remember is just because you have a lot of people that follow you and love you, there will be equal, if not more people that hate you and want to see you fail. So knowing that as you're growing, nobody fucking told me that there were going to be trolls that were literally going to make me cry and want to have and like have panic attacks reading comments. We got to be cognizant that if you're focused on scale, also take care of your mental health right now.
It's also something the platforms are trying to combat pretty badly. I think
They're
the
they're doing a
trolling.
terrible job. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that. I get
yeah,
people that will attack me as a person. Like, not even just
yeah.
they don't like what you say. They'll just call you names like brown tranny bitch. Nobody wants it. And you're just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Where did this come from?
exactly. I'm like, you hate yourself. I get it, but geez. So it's like, that's the type of stuff where I'm like, no, I've reported thousands of comments and I get this doesn't go against our guidelines. It's like the
Mm,
platforms are not going to help you. So just make sure that you have friends and support system because you'll get stuff that you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Why do people speak like this?
yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's a problem because there's more haters online than there are fans. So,
Yeah. There's a lot
go
of
and look at
miserable
any
people.
celebrities, go and
Oh,
look at
yeah.
any celebrities, social account, and you'll see that there's a lot of haters out there.
Even ones that I'm like, who could hate Ryan Reynolds? And then you see negative and you're like, how can you hate him? It's like, how can you hate certain people? You're human. So I always like to preface anybody that's getting in the social media world, I'm like, you just need to be
Mm,
ready and you'll find out the hard way.
yeah. Yeah, well, really appreciate all of the advice and super impressive what you're doing. So congrats anyway. Unbelievable the amount of things you've been able to do with such a short amount of time.
Thanks,
So
Jack.
Sabrina, thank you so much for jumping on, and thank you everybody for listening, tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Let us know if you did like it, what you didn't like about it, and so we can keep improving these. But yeah, thank you so much, Sabrina.
Thanks, Jack. I appreciate it.
Bye. Hey guys, we put a bunch of effort into making great content for this YouTube channel. So please hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit like, and tell a few friends about it.